their product. It's their boat. It's how they want to take care of it.
And you talked about that earlier, the boat that sits in the water all year, and you put the moisture reader up to it. If they're getting a survey done, maybe the next owner, they're selling it, and the next owner's getting a survey done. Do you see a lot of wet boats that in those instances where they sit in the water for extended periods of time? Are you seeing a lot of wet boats?
It really depends. Like if you hit something and you don't really say anything to us, it's gonna be wet. Once you get that crack in the fiberglass, it just seeps in and then it soaks everything, and that transom needs to get replaced, which is depending on the boat, like a $20,000 job. We don't really get a lot of it, and it also depends on the age of the boat. If you're looking and doing a survey on a boat that's 30, 40 years old, you're probably going to find something that's wet. But if you're doing something on a 5-year-old boat, probably not. It's gonna be a spot that's maybe this big.
Yeah, and 9 times out of 10, they're not even going to do anything about it.
Right.
Outside of a survey, what would you say, is a good thing to look out for on a used boat purchase?
A great thing to look out for is the service records, and just go through the basic logs, like preventative maintenance. It's preventative for a reason. And I'm going back to my time as a technician, and this really is why I got into sales. Just do your preventative maintenance, because it's going to save you so much money in the long term. Oil changes and tune-ups and just fluids. That's all you really got to do. And if you're not really religious about it, when you get to that 10-year mark, when you get to 1,000 hours, you're going to start to see problems. And you're going to see problems inside of the motor. A fuel pump that goes just happens. Every once in a while, it can go at 500 hours or 1,000 hours. Maybe it never goes. But if you're never changing your spark plugs, you're probably going to get some loss of power.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen jobs where people have a 15 or 20-year-old boat and they've never been done. And then they don't come out.
Yeah. Actually, so the way I got into sales and what really drove me to be on this side of it is I was working as a technician over at Mountain View, and we got a call about a guy who was driving through the Governor's Island Bridge and his motor just shut off. So I had to hop in the workboat, drive all the way out there, tow him in, and part of what I do diagnostics-wise is just ask him, like, what was the last thing you did? And he's like, well, oil change. Like, so have you done anything else? No, I haven't. I was like, have you ever done a tune-up? I don't know what that is. I was like, okay. Like, did your sales guy tell you to do a tune-up? He's like, no, he didn't tell me any maintenance to do. And so I did the tune-up. He was running. Hour later, he was back on the water. So that was kind of the epiphany moment for me, where I was like, I now have the technical knowledge of all of these boats. I know generally where to guide people. Maybe if I take that, I can run with it in sales. And I mean, so far it's worked out for me pretty well.
I would say what separates good salesman from a bad salesman is one that tries to understand the boater's objective. Because there's so many salesmen out there that will try to put them in the boat that the customer wants. And that might not be the right way of phrasing it, but when a customer comes in, they say, I want this. Well, you want to understand why they want that.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of sales guys that'll say, hey, listen, I know you want to buy this. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's a ton of sales guys that will come in and just say, yeah, sure, I'll sell you that boat. And then there's the guys that'll ask why and understand, well, you want to do a ton of wakeboarding off of a ski pylon? No, we're not going to. You want to look at a boat with a wakeboard tower. Figuring out the why is definitely super important in sales. And not only just selling the boat, but a full delivery process is very seldomly done correctly in today's boating market.
It's hard. It's hard to do correctly, even for me, even though that's something I really try and push forward, is the white glove service. Whether you're buying a formula or you're buying, my $10,000 boat that someone just threw up there to get rid of, I try and treat everybody the same. And that's kind of the hard part, is we have such an influx of people all at one time. Yeah. So it's like, I want to give you everything I have, but I don't have the time to give it to you. It's, I would be working 24/7 for the next 6 months to be able to give that top level service. So sometimes you got to cut corners, unfortunately.
I think there's, and you can probably relate to this too. It bounces right off of that story you just told, but so many sales guys rely on the service department to educate. And the service department, while their job is to educate, they're not going to show them every single thing they need to do.
Yeah, they're not. And I think that's really kind of, if you come buy a boat from me, you can call me at any time. I'm happy to run you through any questions. I had a guy call me. He bought a boat from me last spring. And he called me. He's like, Dave, I don't understand this about my registration. Like, am I going to get a title? Because he's from Mass. He's used to getting titles. It's like, you're not going to get a title. Your proof of ownership is your registration.
Yeah.
You know? And he's like, well, what does that mean when I go to sell it? Like, how am I going to do that? And I ran him through the whole process. And it's like, I'm an open book for you to call because there's so much involved with this industry and owning a boat that if you don't know, just ask me. I'm more than happy to help out.
There's a lot of guys that represent the industry correctly, and there's a lot of guys that don't.
We get judged off the 5% of people that don't. That's the hard part.
You know what? It's the 5% of people that have a bad experience that go and tell all their friends they had a bad experience. But if you go above and beyond for one guy, you go out to his dock first thing in the morning to fix a problem he has, and still not fixed. You go out in the afternoon, you get it all resolved. Someone will ask you about, they'll ask them about Paugus Bay Marina, and I'll be like, yeah, pretty good.
Yeah,
That's literally it.
I think that's what's cool about Paugus is that the people do go the extra mile and say, no, they're great. Like,
Really?
they're awesome.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I've had so many people come into my office and they're like, hey, the only reason I'm here is because of Corey. Corey has done such a great job. He's always taken care of me in the past. I want to buy a boat from him, but unfortunately, I have to work with you. I'm like, well, that's totally fine. I completely understand, but I'm happy to start building a relationship with you and carrying on the same foot, moving forward. Let me do my best for you.
Yeah, there's a reason why Corey put me in this position.
Exactly. And I think that's why I think Paugus and I really align very well is that maintaining customers and maintaining those relationships and building those relationships with people, because we don't do a lot of advertisement. On our valet list, we have a waiting list of 120 people long, and that's because we can't get rid of any of our customers. They don't want to leave, and when they do leave, they're like, we're leaving just because we found the slip, or they're leaving because they're just done with boating.
Yeah.
And I think that's the great thing about Paugus is we do such a good job taking care of people. We know everybody by their name. We know their pets, mom, dad, grandparents, kids, everybody. It's awesome to see them.
And with dealerships like Marine Max coming out and growing, we're losing that sort of mom and pop feel of marine dealerships. Really, that whole dealership model is taking over many different industries.
Yeah.
And I do believe that there's going to be a resurgence in people looking for more of that personal experience where you buy a boat or you know everyone on a first name basis that you don't get at some of these chain dealerships. And I'm not speaking poorly of Marine Max or speaking poorly, but they do lose that personal touch with their customers at some point once you become so corporate. So we talk a lot about customer errors. What's one thing you learned on a boat the hard way?
Oh, jeez. Kill switch. The customer comes out and they're calling me crazy. My boat won't start. I just bought it the other day. I'm like, I don't know what's going on with this thing. I can't figure it out. It's July. It's like 90 degrees, 100% humidity. I'm sweating. It's like 3 in the afternoon.
You're in the engine bay.
Yeah, in the engine bay. It was just running. It's 1,000 degrees in there. You can't figure out why it won't start. Plugging the computer in, doing diagnostics, and then, someone else comes moseying along. You're like, kill switch is off. It's like, it's not neutral. It kills you. It kills you.
Some of the newer electronic throttles like Mercury. One of the very first things we learned is that when there's no solid mechanical thump that you're in gear, a lot of people can mistake it for being in gear, and nothing happens when you turn the key.
Yeah, nothing. You just click a button.
It
It'll
just
maybe,
beeps.
sometimes it'll crank, sometimes it won't. But 8 seconds and then